So I love the 3DS, right? But lately, it's just been hard to find other 3DS users out there. I mean, the console's 14 years old, not many people are carrying around a 3DS in the big 25, and even if they were, it'd be pretty embarrassing to be caught with one. I mean, 14-year-old console? Who wants to be caught with that? So I was thinking, there's gotta be some way to, like, subtly alert other 3DS users around you, like that you're also a 3DS user? Like, what if your 3DS made a really loud announcement? Now, I know what you're wondering. Avery, how are we gonna know when there's another 3DS user in the premises? Well, luckily, Nintendo did all the hard work for us. You see, the 3DS had a feature called Streetpass. Now, what is Streetpass? Well, when two 3DS systems come across each other in sleep mode, they will exchange Miis, and you'll get this little green light. Now, this green light is very important because this is actually how we're gonna know when there's another 3DS user in the vicinity. So really, the issue is not knowing when there's another 3DS user, but really it's detecting when this green light is gonna go off. And in order to know how to do that, we first have to understand how the light works. Now, there are three states that the 3DS indication light can usually be in. You have green for Streetpass, you have blinking red for low battery, and you have blue for Spot Pass. It's the same color. I just pretend I was able to get a Spot Pass notification. Now, the way that one LED is able to emit all of these different colors is using something called an RGB LED, or red, green, blue LED. Now, you may know that pretty much every single color that we can see as human beings can be made up by red, green, and blue light. So, an RGB LED has 4 pins. 1 pin for a common ground, and then 3 input pins for red, green, and blue light, respectively. This means that an RGB LED can create basically any color through powering each of the pins with different voltages. So, for example, if you wanted to make something like purple, you would put 3.3 volts on the red and blue pins and 0 volts on the green pin, and that would create purple. But it's a lot easier to visualize it if we actually put it on a breadboard, so let's go ahead and do that. So you can see here we have our breadboard set up. I know I said 3.3 volts earlier, but this is a 5 volt power supply. We have 3 switches here, all connected to the respective pins on the RGB LED. And then we have 3 resistors here. These are all 330 ohms just to stop the LED from exploding. So if I go ahead and hit each of the switches, we see we have our red switch, our green switch, and our blue switch. And as mentioned before, we can create different colors by combining these. So if I hit red and blue, you can see we get a nice brilliant purple. But this is only 3 combinations of switches. You have this, this, and this. And that's obviously not every single color. So how do we make more colors? Well, the answer actually lies in these resistors down here. If I take this blue 330 ohm resistor and replace it with a much higher resistance, 2000 ohm resistor, I believe this is, and I hit this, you can see our blue is a lot less bright. And if I hit red and blue at the same time, you can see we get more of a pink color. So this is how RGB LEDs actually create all the different colors. They change resistances and voltages and currents and stuff, and a lot of stuff that I'm not qualified to explain, but that's basically the gist of it. So why do we need to know how these RGB LEDs work? Well, now that we know that whenever an RGB LED lights up, it needs to get power to one of these pins. And we know that the Streetpass icon is green. So what we can actually do is we can read that signal with something like an Arduino here. So if I go ahead and hit this green switch, you see here on our serial monitor, the 1 that corresponds to green lights up. And it does the same thing for our blue switch and for our red switch, and even for all 3 at the same time. So now that we know how to actually read the output of an RGB LED, we can essentially apply the same thing to our 3DS LED. Now, before we go ahead and actually apply these concepts to a 3DS, we have to make the incredibly relatable decision on deciding which 3DS we want to upgrade. The 3DS of choice here for me is going to be the new 2DS XL. And it's not because the R button is broken and the blue power light doesn't work and the volume slider's gone, but what's really calling to me is that the indicator light is up here on this little ridge. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. And I have a theory that this little ridge is actually a separate PCB from the rest of the 3DS mainboard, so it's going to be a lot easier to work on. So, opening up the 3DS, you can see here we have the main board, and the part that I really want to focus on is this piece right here. So, as I predicted, the camera and the notification LED, that sort of assembly, is all on its own separate PCB, and so it's going to be a lot easier to work with here. So, zooming in, we can see the RGB LED on this PCB here, and it is a lot smaller than the breadboard RGB LED, but it still is the same basic principle. You have 4 pads here, for red, green, and blue, and then your common ground. So the idea is to do the same thing we did on the breadboard, except with this teeny tiny LED instead of the big one. So we're gonna have to go ahead and do some micro soldering, which is always super fun. So I went ahead and wired up our 2DS to the Arduino here. We have our blue data line, our white ground line, and our green voltage line. And the astute viewer will notice that our voltage line is actually coming from the LED instead of the ground line. And that's actually because this RGB LED on the 2DS is a common anode RGB LED. It's not a common cathode RGB LED. So that just means that instead of having a common ground connection like we saw earlier with our breadboarded one, it actually has a common voltage connection, and it has 3 pins that you have to pull to ground in order to get light from them. Another thing that's different about this setup is that our blue data line is actually plugged into an analog pin on our Arduino, and that's just because the voltage drop on this RGB LED is so low that it can't actually be read with the traditional digital read and digital write signals from the Arduino. So if we go ahead and look at our serial monitor, we can see we're sitting around 3 volts, maybe a little over, maybe a little under, and that is with our Streetpass notification on. And so if I go ahead and open the 2DS real quick, just to get rid of that notification, we can see our voltage spikes to around 3.7, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. And so this is the value that we're actually going to be using to determine whether or not we have a Streetpass notification. So here we have the completed build, we have the 2DS right here, and it's actually really hard to tell once it's all put together, but it is modified. We have the breadboard here, hot glued to the back, and then the Arduino hot glued to the breadboard. And so this Arduino is taking this, and then it is having this green wire send that data over to the soundboard, and the soundboard is sending data over to the JBL speaker. So if I go ahead and hit OK, confirm greeting, and we should be all set. And I can receive a Streetpass even with the system closed. Wow, it's crazy. Notification will turn green. So now all we have to do is wait a couple seconds, and we should be getting a Streetpass notification. Maybe I have to go a little bit farther here. And we should be getting a Streetpass communication any second. This has worked every other time I've tested it like this. Why are we breaking right now? So I managed to figure it out. I had too many Mii's in my Streetpass Plaza line from all the testing I was doing. But you can see here from our red light, it is going off because of our Streetpass, and if I turn on the speaker, we get that lovely notification noise. I'm gonna turn that back off. So that's just a placeholder for now. I'm sure I'll come up with something better later. But yeah, the build is basically done. So now that we have our Streetpass notification system set up, we gotta find somewhere to test it. And where better to find other 3DS users? The Walmart parking lot. So we're here walking around in the Walmart parking lot as you do with our very unmodified 2DS. And what's that over there? That's another 3DS user. 3DS user, why don't you come over here? Because I've identified you as another 3DS user, but he might not actually be a 3DS user. We gotta test it. We gotta make sure he's a true blue 3DS user. If he's not an imposter, we should be getting a 3DS notification, which will be notified as to happening.
when this goes off, I promise something's supposed to be happening right now.
So
Fail.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm pretty sure shit. Pretty sure it's an epic success. Can I check this? Just give it a second.
why isn't Streetpass on the Switch, honestly?
I think it should be.
Even though it like is like nothing, it's just like you get to play these games by meeting people, kind of.
It's really awesome.
I think it was cool. The game was kind of mid, but
I'm really fucking hoping this works, because if it doesn't work, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna try and fucking factory reset this on this, like, on the lowest battery possible. Put this back in your hands. Hit okay.
Right now?
Yeah, hit okay right now. Right now, okay, yeah.
Bottom one?
Yo, you hit no. Yeah. Please.
Isn't there a green light that
Yeah,
also is on?
well, that's the whole point. It's a green light.
When the green light's on, the
Yeah.
bell plays.
That's the whole fucking point.
Pass being cringe.
Yeah, it is being super cringe. I'm wondering if it's not doing it because it's on such low battery. Alright, we're just gonna fake it real quick. I know how to like make it. I know how to make it trigger without actually getting Streetpass.
That's fine.
Just give me a second. I have to like turn this off. Oh my god, it worked! Oh, wow, it worked. I'm getting a Streetpass notification.
Oh my god, I just.
Oh my god, there's another 3DS user here. Hold this. Right fucking. Oh my god, there's another 3DS user. Wow, this project works so well. And the speaker just died. Great.
Let's go!